Since I was little, I have had a crush on my mom's best friend. She was very beautiful, with a perfect body and shape. I knew my mom would be very upset if she found out about my feelings, so I kept them to myself and just watched them from afar. She had a daughter who was my age, and we played together whenever her mom came to visit. Her husband lived in the United States, so sometimes she would leave to see him, but most of the time she was alone, especially after her daughter, whom we will call Eva, moved in with her father permanently when she turned 13. We will call my mom's best friend D. D was 26 years older than me, but even with that age difference, she was still the most beautiful woman I had ever seen. On my 16th birthday, my brother got me drunk. That night, I didn't know if it was the alcohol or just foolishness, but I found the courage to approach D and tell her how I felt. Dee had come to visit my mom, and they were both in the kitchen cooking together. I took a deep breath and approached her. With my heart racing, I told her about my feelings. She looked surprised at first, her eyes wide in disbelief. Then, as she realized I was drunk, she laughed softly. Sweetheart, you are too young for me. Maybe when you are older, we can see what happens. But for now, don't try this again. Hearing those words broke my heart. I felt a mix of sadness and happiness. Sad that she didn't share my feelings, but glad that she acknowledged me. I still held on to the hope that maybe one day things could be different. When I turned 17, she left for the United States and this time to stay there permanently. I literally cried the day she left. I felt a strange emptiness without her around. I missed their visits, her laughter, and the brave moments we shared. I knew I had to focus on life and growing up. As time went by, I moved on with my life and slowly forgot about Dee. She still kept in touch with my mom, calling her from time to time to catch up on family news. Life was busy, and I focused on my studies and enjoying my youth. Now, at 23 years old, I was attending university. I had grown into a confident, handsome young man, and I noticed how girls would often stop and stare at me, sometimes even looking twice as I walked by. My friends joked that I could have anyone I wanted, and they were not wrong. I began dating several girls during my time at the university, enjoying the thrill of new relationships. I went out on fun dates, went to parties, and had my share of romantic adventures. Each girl I dated brought something new and exciting to my life, but deep down, I knew none of them captured my heart in the same way that Dee had, even if I had tried to forget her. Then one day, as I entered into our living room, my heart almost jumped out of my chest. There, sitting on the couch, was Dee. She was back and more beautiful than ever. When I saw Dee again, I felt so happy. It was like a blast from the past, and all the old feelings I had for her came rushing back. I couldn't believe my eyes. I remembered her laughter, her smile, and how she made everything better. We said hello to each other, and she smiled at me and told me I'm a grown man now and very handsome. She laughed as she said this. Hearing that made my heart race. It was incredible that she noticed me after all this time. Dee then asked if I could come to her house the next day to help her clean it since no one had been there for years. I quickly agreed, excited about the idea of spending more time with her. Before she left, she kissed me on the cheeks, and this lasted more than a second. I just told myself in my head that, ooh, she wanted me to. Later, after Dee left, my mom told me that Dee had divorced her husband. This news made my heart beat faster. That night, I planned everything out. This was my chance, and I was going to seduce her and have her all to myself. The next day, I arrived at Dee's house. When she opened the door, a smile lit up my heart again. We started cleaning together, reminiscing about old times and laughing as we found forgotten things from the past. As we worked side by side, Dee looked at me and asked me if I felt the same way about her as I did years ago. I nodded without thinking. I leaned in and kissed her. To my surprise, she kissed me back, and then she started taking my clothes off, and we ended up sleeping together. I had been crazy about Dee for years, and finally being with her felt like a dream come true. We began meeting at her house to spend the night together, and everything was wonderful. I was happier than I had ever been. But then one day, things changed when I saw Eva. She was not the little girl I used to play with. Dee had brought her daughter back home after being away for years to visit my mom. Eva had grown into a beautiful young woman, just like her mother. We greeted each other warmly, and my mom had cooked Eva's favorite meal to celebrate her return. A few minutes after she arrived, we all sat down in the dining room to eat together. Eva was sitting on one side of the table, whilst Dee sat on the other. As we chatted during dinner, I suddenly felt someone's hand on my thigh. Thinking it was Dee, I reached under the table to caress her hand, but as soon as I touched it, I realized that the hand felt different. I quickly turned to see Eva looking at me with a look of longing in her eyes. My heart started racing. This was unexpected, and it sparked a mix of emotions in me. I felt confused and drawn to both mother and daughter in ways I hadn't anticipated. I knew I loved Dee. She was the woman I had always wanted to be with. But after seeing Eva, and especially after she touched my tie under the table, I couldn't stop thinking about her. It left me feeling confused and unsure about my feelings. I decided to stay away from Dee for a while to sort everything out. A week after Eva returned, my mom mentioned that if I wasn't seeing anyone, I should reach out to Eva. She told me that Eva had told her she liked me and had always liked me since we were little. My mom thought we looked good together and said it would be a dream come true if I ended up marrying their best friend's daughter. She told me to think about it, but I just nodded, feeling more confused than ever. At that point, I wasn't answering these calls. She had invited me over since Eva had gone out with some friends, but I simply didn't know what I was feeling. That night, as I lay in bed, I suddenly heard Eva's voice outside. My mom told her I was in the room, and then I heard her footsteps walking towards me. My heart raced as I realized that Eva was coming to see me. I felt a combination of excitement and anxiety, knowing that our conversation could change everything. As Eva's footsteps drew closer, I felt my heart pounding in my chest. I wasn't sure what to expect or how I would feel when she entered the room. She knocked and I asked her to come in. Eva entered and she looked even more beautiful up close. Hey, she said, and asked if she was interrupting anything. I shook my head, unsure of what to say, but I asked her to sit down on the edge of my bed. She perched herself carefully. I could see she looked nervous and excited at the same time. We've not really had time to talk since I came back, she said. I really missed you. I smiled and told her I missed her too. I could feel the tension in the room, and I knew that we both felt the strange connection. After a brief silence, she moved closer to me on the bed. I don't know if your mom had told you anything, but I like you, she said. I know it must feel strange seeing me again after so long, but I've thought about you a lot over the years. I had a crush on you when we were kids, and it hasn't completely gone away. She said her mom had told her I was dating someone else, but she just wanted to tell me how she was feeling. My heart raced at her admission. I never knew she felt that way before, and hearing her say it made me feel both excited and conflicted. Just then, I noticed how close she was sitting, and before I could respond, she moved a little closer. And before I could say a word, Eva was kissing me, and I couldn't help myself, and I kissed her back. I kissed Eva for a long time, and I loved every moment of it. When we finally pulled away, we spent time talking, exploring our feelings. Eva was open and honest about how much she wanted to be with me. But the longer we talked, the more confused I became. I knew my mom would never accept a relationship between me and Dee. The thought of her finding out made me feel uneasy. She had always been supportive of my relationship with Eva, seeing it as a natural fate since we had both known each other since childhood. I could imagine how she would react if I were to date her best friend. She would feel deeply betrayed, and that thought troubled me. On the other hand, I couldn't shake off the reality that Dee would be hurt if I ended up dating her daughter. For years, Dee had been someone I admired and loved. The idea of pursuing a relationship with Eva felt like a betrayal to Dee, which is only adding to my confusion. Should I ignore my feelings for Dee and embrace the connection with Eva, or should I try to pursue what I had with Dee, knowing that it might hurt Eva? I feel conflicted and restless, and I don't know what to do.